Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. My name is yeon, a volunteer here at the National Trust of Korea Cultural Heritage Foundation, and I will be your docent for today. Here at Choisunu's old house, I'll be guiding you through who Choi Sunu was, about the house, and lastly, on how you can participate and support our foundation. This house was the last home of Choi Sunu, who was born in 1916 at Kaesong, which is a city now situated in the southwestern region of North Korea. He was a celebrated art historian and the fourth director of the National Museum of Korea. He was a fervent advocate of the beauties of Korean culture and the restoration of heritage. He is also the author of many steady sellers on Korean arts and culture to this day. His actual first name is Heesun, not Sunu. However, he is more famously known as Haegok Choi Sunu. Haegok is his courtesy name, and Sunu was his pseudonym when publishing his works. Both of these names were bestowed upon him by Chun Hyung-pil, famous for establishing Kansong Art Museum. In Choi Sunu's early years, driven by his interest in literature, he joined an academic club for literature and went so far as to publish children's poetry in the columns of 동아일보. During his time at Songdo Normal High School, this is a term used for high schools during the Japanese colonial era, Choi Sunu had his first encounter with yeon at the Kaesong Prefectural Museum. Ko-Yusop, who happened to be the director of the aforementioned museum, had a large influence on the path that Choi Sunu takes as an art historian, a curator, and a museum director. Choi Sunu started to study art history under Ko-Yusop during his years there. After graduating from high school, Choi goes on to work at Kaepyeonggun Public Office as a clerk at the Historical Records Department. The job entailed the management of local monuments and artifacts. This post was actually the result of Ko-Yusop's recommendation, and in addition to the recommendation, Go took Choi on field trips to important historic sites from the Goryeo dynasty in Kaepyeong and taught Choi how to conduct field trips and their importance. On turning 29, the year 1945, Choi Sunu became a secretary at the Kaesong Municipal Museum, becoming fully employed at a museum for the first time. In 1949, he is promoted to the position of curator and is relocated to the Seoul National Museum. He spends the rest of his life as a pioneer in Korean museum management, implementing new advancements such as new restoration methods, educational programs for both training staff and for visitors. These attempts were the foundation on which the workings of the museums in Korea are built on today. Moreover, his efforts in the fields of historical excavation and Korean art history in general are additions to his acclaim, an exemplar of which is his 1964 excavation of the Gangjin Goryeo Celadon kiln site. This discovery is a noted event in the timeline of research on Goryeo Celadons. As a passionate advocate of Korean culture, Choi Sunu strived to rekindle interest for national heritage domestically as well as stir interest internationally. In his domestic endeavors, he wrote as many as 600 works regarding Korean art history, monuments, artifacts, museums, and cultural rites and rituals. The forms of his works vary widely, from newspaper serials and academic articles to anecdotal essays. Many of his works have been collected and published as books, which still adorn the shelves of many households in Korea today. Choi's efforts on the international front were mainly based on planning and holding international exhibitions such as the Masterpieces of Korea and 5,000 Years of Korean Art. These exhibitions were held all over the world, ranging from regions as far as America and Europe to as near as Japan. And in many cases, these happened to be the first displays of Korean arts and culture abroad. 5,000 years of Korean art was especially significant of Choi's feats in that it marked a monumental point in Korean art history as it re-established the span of Korean art history from 2,000 years to 5,000 years through the discovery by Choi of the combed patterned earthenware from the Neolithic period at the Amsadong excavation site. The combed patterned earthenware was seen as the beginning of art in Korea, and the title of the exhibition is changed from 2,000 years of Korean art to 5,000 years of Korean art. Many pieces of Korean heritage, such as the famous pensive and other Korean Buddhist art, Korea white celadons, Joseon white porcelain, and paintings were exhibited. It met with huge success, with the number of visitors reaching up to 570,000 just in Japan. Choi Sunu moved into this house in 1976, and he lived here until his death in 1984. His first home in moving to Seoul was the residence provided by the National Museum of Korea, which was situated inside Gyeongbokgung or Gyeongbok Palace. From there, he moved to Samcheongdong and then to Kungjongdong, where Choi spends over a decade, till the area is expropriated due to security reasons at the Blue House. The building is a modern-era hanok, built in the early 1930s. The house has 3 separate buildings, and these are grouped into 2 parts. The building you see ahead on entering the house is called the Anche, the inner court, which literally means the inner building. It is shaped in a kiok shape. Kiok is a Korean letter that looks like a top right-hand corner of a rectangle. The 2 buildings meeting at the porch are collectively called the 바깥che, the outer court, shaped like a yeon. Yeon is also a Korean letter that looks like the bottom left corner of a rectangle. When seen from a bird's eye view, the 2 parts together form a bium shape, which is a Korean letter much like a rectangle. In the anche, counting from the left-hand side, the rooms are called the 사랑방, which was used by Choi both as his bedroom and his study, 안방, which was used by his wife, 대청마루, which functions as the main hall, and the 건널방, which was used by their daughter. There are small high windows in the 안방 right next to the 사랑방, looking onto the interior of the rectangular shape. The windows mark where the kitchen used to be before Choi renovated the house in the 1970s. Boilers and other modern appliances were added then, and to make space, the kitchen was moved out behind the daechangmaru, and the 안방 expanded to take up the space left from the former kitchen. The house acts as a reflection of Choi Sunu's tastes, ideals in life. The golden wheat grass-coloured flooring, the carefully selected susok, decorative stones which are directly from nature without any artificial touch, the chosen style white porcelain, the white pyoru, ink grinding stone plates, brushes, and the traditional wooden furniture were all hand-picked by Choi Sunu and placed to his taste to create an atmosphere of a chosen scholar. The house was a bustling place of interaction for Choi's colleagues in the arts and culture field or those related to the museum. Above the doors of the sarang, there is a pyonek, a wooden sign on the top of the doors. It literally means a phrase written on the forehead of a building. The pyonek spells out "Tumun 즉시 심산," meaning on closing the door, here, we are deep in the greens of the mountains. The pyonek was written and hung up by Choi himself when he moved in 1976. The plants adorning the garden are all native to Korean soil and can be found in the mountains and fields of Korea. The garden is home to maple trees, quince trees, and Cornus officinalis. Choi's love and wish to further Korean culture can also be found through these small details. He used to say that he liked Korean flowers because of their rough simplicity as opposed to the intricate and ornamental style of Western flowers. Each tree and plant in the garden at the back were the result of his many excavation trips. Plants that caught his eye were moved from the sites to the house and replanted or bought afterwards from sellers. The excavations brought him to travel all around Korea, and the garden is a unique gathering from all around the country. Above the windows of the sarang, seen from the garden, there is another pyonek, which reads "Osudang." The literal meaning of the text is afternoon, sleep, house, thus afternoon nap house. The phrase itself is a quotation from Tanwon Kim Hong-jo's Tangwon Yumukchop, which is kept at the National Museum of Korea today. Choi loved the phrase so much that his nickname ended up becoming Osunoin, meaning, in the literal sense, an afternoon napping old man. The lattice window frames that you can see all around the house is also a famous characteristic of the architecture of the house, and is also mentioned in Choi's written works. The shape of the frames resemble the character yeon in the Chinese language, which is shaped like a grid of 2x4, except that the bottom part is missing, and the ends, which have no corners, are naturally drawn left. Much like a window with fluttering curtains, though there are no curtains at the house. The windows themselves are wooden framed with a simple grid-like lattice of 2x4. Choi especially liked these windows due to the neat and beautiful simplicity of the ratio of these frames. The area around Choi Sunu's old house used to be full of other hanoks, like this one. Now not many are left in the area. After Choi Sunu's death in 1984, his wife and daughter carried on living here until 2002 when they listed the house. On hearing this, Professor Kim Hong-nam of Ewha Women's University took the initiative of preserving the house and creating a commemorative museum for Choi's life and works. She gathered willing private firms and individuals to fund the project. After going through restoration processes, the house was first opened to the public in 2004. As with the example of the old house, the National Trust movement is a citizen-led movement for the preservation of cultural and natural heritage deemed worthy of preservation through voluntary fundraising and donations, realizing the concept of public ownership. The movement was first started in England in 1895, and the movement here in Korea started in the 1990s by action against the lifting of green belts. In April 2004, our organisation was established along with the opening of this house, Choi Sunu's home, to the public. The house was the first civic cultural heritage under our protection, and this was also the rooting of the nationalist movement that started in the 1990s in Korea, as mentioned above. In 2006, we were able to add our second civic cultural heritage, the old house at Tore village in Naju, and we met with our third edition later, Kwon Jin-gyu's atelier, donated to us by Kwon's family after his death. Each civic cultural heritage is used as a museum, a local cultural institution, and artist support space according to the purposes of their preservation. Our foundation and civic cultural heritage depend on the support and interest of each of you. You can participate in conservation through regular or single donations. Online donation boxes such as Happy Bean and ZeroPay are also open. You can also participate in preservation activities through volunteering or making donations of talent. If you visit our homepage, SNS, or leave your email address in the guest book, you can receive news on various events held through our foundation. Please feel free to ask any questions. Feel free to take a look around the house. That's it from us. Thank you for listening. Have a great day.